I'd like to call the November 10th, 2025 Board of Commissioners work session meeting to order. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Dennis Wendt.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
Deanna, will you please do the roll call?
Rebecca Moody, Vice President.
Here.
Denise Hall, Commissioner.
Here.
Ms. McNaney, Commissioner.
Here.
Craig Mall, Commissioner.
Here.
Sandra Zadell, Township Manager.
Here.
Megan Hurst, Assistant Township Manager. Here. Lauren Gallagher, Township Solicitor.
Here.
Nicholas Cross, Township Engineer.
Here.
David Duffy, Chief of Police. Brian Shapiro, Finance Director. David Conroy, Zoning Officer. And it is noted that Commissioner Catherine Carter is absent.
Thank you. Next week's agenda, we have a recognition of Officer Fahem. And so item number 5, Ms. Gallagher, have there been any executive sessions?
Yes, the board met in executive session earlier this evening to discuss matters of potential litigation, an active litigation matter, and property acquisition.
Thank you. Item number 6, public comments. Please state your name and whether you are a resident or non-resident when you come up to the microphone. Our goal is to always give you the most complete and correct responses to your questions, who are experts in their field. So for that reason, you have the option of enclosing your email address on the sign-up sheet if you'd like us to reach out to you during the week for an answer to your question. First up for public comment, we have Carl Smith. It's up to you. The hearing is next week, actually. Correct, that's next week.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, yes, Carl Smith, I'm a resident. I had a question on the notification protocol for confirming party status. In the paper, it said you had 5 days. So is that 5 business days or is that 5 calendar days? To notify Deanna of people that wanted to get party status.
There will be an opportunity to assert party status at the hearing.
But in the notification in the paper, it said you needed to give written or a notice. I don't know if it has to be written to Deanna Logan 5 days prior to the hearing on the 17th.
That's for anybody that's requesting an accommodation to participate. So if you're unable to attend due to a physical disability or something, then that's what that's for.
Oh,
You can assert it at the hearing.
so anyone that's party status does what? Just gives you the ability to communicate in absentia?
So I give a speech at the public hearing.
Yeah.
So I'm not prepared for my speech tonight, but essentially, party status gives a member of the public the opportunity to participate in the hearing. So put on witnesses, cross-examine witnesses, that sort of thing. You have to establish that you're entitled to party status in order to do so. Everyone is entitled to make public comment, though. So there is a distinction between party status and public comment.
Would you draw the distinction between the two? I didn't catch it. Of between party status and just general status.
Party status allows you to participate in the hearing as a party to the application.
Asking questions.
Asking questions, cross-examining witnesses, which is different than public comment, which is public comment, which you're doing now.
So in order to do that, you have to give notice 5 days prior.
No,
No.
No.
Only if you can't make it.
that's if you need an accommodation.
So anyone that shows up can participate as if they have party status.
If they are entitled to party status and they establish that they are entitled to party status.
And that's a whole different list of qualifications, I assume.
Correct. There's a legal standard to obtain party status.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have anyone else signed up. Does anyone else have any comments?
Fred Hinken. I am a resident. Just a general question. Has notice been given by mail and property owners within 500 feet of the Pembroke Parkway project been notified of the conditional use hearing? So are the residents within 500 feet of that project?
Are there residents?
Are there residents within 500 feet of that
Yes.
property?
Yes.
And they've been notified by mail?
Yes.
I'm just asking a question. I didn't-
And the property's been posted as well.
Oh, it has been posted? Okay. That was my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I can. So as the public comment indicated, next week we will have a public hearing regarding 1500 Pembroke Parkway. One portion, there's two things being reviewed. One is the conditional use hearing, and the second would be if conditional use is granted, a land development hearing. Dave, you are up for your report.
Good evening, everyone. In regards to zoning and land development this month, 1500 Pembroke Parkway, we just covered that. It's on the agenda next week for the conditional use and the land development. New land development was filed this month by Merck at 770 Something Town Pike for a new parking garage. I believe it's 4 stories, and I believe the number is like, I don't know, 490 parking spaces, somewhere around there. It's going to be located right behind the Wells Fargo Bank on Something Town Pike, back in that parking lot. It will be taking up existing parking spaces. So it's literally going right on top of a parking lot. 2 zoning hearing board applications this month. The first one's for 308 Gwynedd Avenue. They're asking for a variance for a boarding house / halfway house at that parcel. It was as a result of an enforcement action against the property. So they did file a zoning hearing board application for the boarding house use there. The other application is for 284 Wissahickon Avenue. They want to use the property for contractors' use for the outside storage of materials, which would need a use variance from the zoning hearing board. They're also asking for a parking variance. They would need 40 parking spaces for the use there. They're asking for 33. So they would need a variance for that. But that's really all I have this month for the zoning. Anyone has any questions, just let me know. No? Have a good night.
Thank you. And Nick, you're up.
Thanks, Sandra. Just a couple of updates tonight for the Haynes Run Stream Bank Restoration Project. All the work's been complete. All the additional plantings have been added. So just a couple of small punch list items are being addressed by the contractor, and we expect to close out that contract at next month's meeting. For the West Prospect Drainage Improvements Project, Phase 2, the construction's nearing completion. All that's remaining is the paving. So those operations are planned to take place this week. So that should be wrapped up by the end of the week, and then that project should also be put on next month's agenda for closeout. So 2 projects wrapping up here toward the end of 2026. And then something that's not on my thing here, Sandra had sent out the email to the commissioners earlier today, but we had our MS4 inspection with the DEP this past week, and they had glowing reviews for the township, the processes that the Public Works Yard has going on down there. There were no violations. And during the meeting, they mentioned that they're very impressed with the township and how much progress they've made with their MS4 program, and how everything's kind of been buttoned up here. So great work for the entire Public Works staff and Megan and Sandra for keeping everything moving.
And Nick
And
and RV for doing a great job managing our MS4 on our behalf.
I appreciate that. You guys make it very easy here.
But I will echo your comments in support of our staff. It is, they don't inspect DEP or MS4 inspection doesn't happen every year. I don't know, Nick, how frequently.
It's every 5 years, but the last 5-year cycle, because it fell right around COVID, they were doing them virtually. So this is the first one they've really done since the MS4's kicked off.
Yeah, quite a while since we've had one, and we passed with flying colors. So I'm very proud of all of our staff for that. Megan, thank you. And thank you to John Chabala and Dave Richard and our whole Public Works team.
Yeah. And they came out and they walked the Haynes Run project following that just to see the progress that was made from the construction. They were very impressed with everything they saw out there and very happy with the way the construction went. So another Another feather in the cap of Upper Gwynedd Township.
My favorite part of the meeting was Nick's big, huge smile the whole time that they were talking, because they kept saying, "Oh, Upper Gwynedd, you're doing such a great job with this and that." And it was like Nick with his child. I feel like the MS4 program in Upper Gwynedd.
Gotta love a nice, easy meeting with a federal agency.
Yeah.
And if I could just add something to all that, happy people, people that drive on West Point Pike, by the tea house, by pizza time, at the light, it's fixed, it's nice, it's quiet over those rumbles, those crosswalks. It's done. Yeah, it was done Friday. It was little tricky there in the beginning, but it's beautiful. So Fred, I hope you don't hear the cars rumbling from your house anymore. Oh, sorry. We can't do much about that, Fred, but we got that fixed there, so it's much nicer in the village. So you have a lot of happy people in the village too. So thank you, and anybody that uses that road, because it was tough. So thank you for that.
Okay. Anything else, Nick? Okay. We have a lot on the agenda tonight, and I'm going to keep going because I know some people might have something they want to watch in a little bit. So we have for the consent agenda next week, there will be item 12 would be on the consent agenda. It's all the staff departmental reports, as well as items 13 and 14, which are just minutes from our board meetings. And that brings us to what everyone is here for tonight, the 2026 budget presentation. While we wait for Megan to get that loaded. Perfect. Oh, does anyone see the clicker? So interesting. Oh, hiding behind my computer. Perfect. All right. Megan, thank God you're here. Okay. So we are at the 2026 budget presentation. Every year I like to start by talking about the budget process. Department heads work starting in the summer with the township manager, finance director, and board liaisons to review their budget requests. We present those budget requests in their entirety with no edits to the Board of Commissioners in 2 public work sessions, followed by 2 Board of Commissioners meetings. This is the first of 2. This is one when we tell you everything we're planning, and then in December, the board will vote to either approve or not approve the agenda, but we are required to pass an agenda every year by December 31st. We currently have a balanced budget that requires no general fund tax increase in 2026 or 2025. A tax increase is proposed for our fire services fund, which I will go into much more in depth later in this presentation. And the budget will be scheduled and advertised for approval on 12/8. Between now and then, the public are welcome to inspect the budget, which we will post online and have available for people to review. This is a great chart that shows where our Upper Gwynedd taxpayers fall compared to other taxpayers in other townships in Montgomery County. As you can see, we are 26th out of 38, with good old Worcester being the most affordable and Cheltenham being the most expensive. And that includes our 0.63 proposed millage increase for the fire tax. Should probably take a moment to consult my notes and make sure I don't forget anything that I want to tell you guys. Okay, so when we look at 2026, we have to also look at how we're ending things in 2025. So in 2025, we have a projected operational revenues at 12.9 million. And projected expenditures are planned at 12.2 million. So if you can do some math in your head, you know that means we're doing okay in 2025. Our total expenditures actually are so much less than what we had planned, coming in right now or as of 10/10 at 8.7 million. Public Works and the police, as usual, lead our expenditures. And our projected surplus for this year is just upwards of $700,000. We use those surpluses and transfer to our capital reserve fund to plan for future projects. And we also have a lot of transfers that come in and out of the general fund, go to other funds such as our wastewater fund and back and forth. So with wastewater, we use, there's a transfer that pays back a 2021 general loan that the general fund gave to the wastewater fund, as well as to pay for the salaries of the many staff that work both on wastewater and other township projects. Starting the budget process, we always like to look at our general fund reserve balance. This year, something is new, and it's something we as staff are pretty proud of, is we have, the board approved a fund balance policy, which sets a plan for our unrestricted funds in our budget at 30%. The Governor Finance Officers Association, like, what did I miss? GFOA. I'll stick with that because I don't know the actual acronym as well as I should. They are the group that gives government finance officials advice and standards that we should follow. And they recommend having 16.9% of expenditures in reserve. Our policy set things to be a bit more conservative. We wanted to have 30% in reserve instead of 16.9 to plan for a rainy day. The remainder of that money that's sort of just been sitting in our accounts for quite some time, we're planning to transfer to our capital reserve fund, which at this point has about $64 million of planned expenditures over the next 5 years. And we will be transferring $8,107,000 and change to the capital fund from our general fund and restricted reserve. This will help realign our savings and our checking. That's how we like to talk about the general fund reserve fund. That rainy day portion is sort of our savings, and we don't want to have too much in savings that then we aren't able to do projects for the community. So that's one of the reasons we want to realign that. Additional funding will be transferred to the capital fund. At the time that Brian and our finance team does the audit, if we find that our audited surplus is higher than expected, the next time we do a transfer, we plan for that and use it to fund the capital fund. I always like to give a little review of what we're spending our money on. So this is 2026 expenditures, operating revenue, sorry, not expenditures. Our top 4 revenue sources, as you can see from this slide, are pretty stable. Which is wonderful news, but it's also not like a shooting star up into the sky of increased revenue. It's a stable revenue source over our 4 largest revenue sources, which are real estate taxes, Act 511 taxes, shared revenue and entitlements, and public safety revenues. Our expenditures planned for next year are $12.3 million. And we are highlighting, I guess, the 6 or 7 top spending categories in our budget, always leading the way. And pretty much any municipal budget will be police expenditures, which that's true of our budget as well as public works, where we do, when people ask what do municipalities do, a lot of times they say police and roads, and our budget, which is our main planning document, reflects that. Additionally, we are a service-based industry. We have to pay employer-paid benefits for all of our wonderful employees. And then the executive category is one that kind of handles administration. So you can sort of see, again, our expenditures have more variability than our revenues. But those typically, especially when you see that change in public works, prior to last year, we budgeted a lot of items which are capital in our operations budget. So that made it hard to look at the budget year to year and say, okay, why is there this big spike in the public works budget last year or say 10 years ago? You can't track it so easily. So we've removed all capital expenditures and put them where they belong in the capital fund, so that when you can look at our expenditures through time, you really see a true value of our operational expenditures. A little overview of what we'll be spending money on operationally next year if the board approves this budget. Our revenues are anticipated to be up by 2.2% over the 2025 budget, and our expenditures are only up by 1.12% for the same period. We are not planning any additional full-time employees. We're excited that our property and liability costs at like many businesses across the states are stabilizing. Our building and grounds contracted services, we really bleed service call costs on our HVAC issues, which I was talking to Greg earlier about how water comes many times through the ceiling due to our aging HVAC infrastructure. So we aim to fix that next year with some capital planned improvements. In the police department, we have a slight reduction in wages. It's not because we've reduced police officer wages, it's because we have a new, younger force. So as police officers step through the contract salary increases. They start to make more once they've attained full status. Our salaries and wages in the fire marshal's office now account for 2 full-time staff members, along with some reduction in professional services. This year, we brought on a deputy fire marshal, which has caused really wonderful community safety improvements, and again, reduce those professional services costs. And in the code and zoning department, revenues are still strong, which indicates that investment into our community from people making investments in their homes or land developments. And we have some increases in this fund due to actuals being realigned for engineering costs. In the Public Works and Park and Rec funds, Public Works salary and wage increases are significant for next year, planned due to recent contract negotiations with the Operating Engineers Union. Our assumption is that we'll get that contract settled at some point soon, hopefully. And so we wanted to plan to be able to pay for those new contracted benefits. Overtime costs and operating supplies are declining if you look at the budget document and compare it year over year, but that's because we have created quite a few new budget categories in the Public Works Department. So now we will have stormwater, snow and ice removal, and traffic control all segmented out of the Public Works budget so that we can track things. Again, snow is one of those things where from year to year, it just goes up and down. So we'll have it in its own category. So when we look at Public Works, we can really get a good idea of the operational costs and expenditures. The Park and Rec Department, I'd like to point out, they are funded under their own fund. It's a Park and Recreation Fund, so they're not part of the general fund. Their revenue is up slightly this year, year over year, bolstered by teen classes and camps. This is really like a niche market that our Park and Rec Department has marketed, and what they dream of, we fill. We had, I think, like zombie manhunt for teens. It was a Halloween event. Our teen camps sell out within minutes. It's very successful. We've also changed how we account for Carnival to show actual revenues and actual expenses, as well as plan some increases for the summer concert series in an attempt to upgrade the program and attract even better bands. We have a great program already, but we want to continue to be providing great service for our residents with good bands to come and see if it doesn't rain every Wednesday like it did this summer. We really struggled with weather this year. Also, we, just like many other municipalities in Pennsylvania, have increased costs in park maintenance due to tree care. That's just something with the ash trees that are really, it still continues to affect us just like everyone else. Another fund that's separate from the general fund is our wastewater treatment plant funding. Similar to the general fund, interest earnings have been very strong for wastewater and our general fund. This is something I want to touch on. We touched on it earlier this year. Our new finance director, Brian Shapiro, was able to consolidate something, I think like 20 bank accounts down to just four. Sorry, I was looking at him to give me the number. And we were able to get really strong interest earnings by bundling that together and using a specific account at a specific bank that has better interest rates. Also in wastewater, transfers to the fund have been reduced due to the closing of Fund 04, which typically just accounted for the telemedicine service area, which at this point is just a very small part of our operations. And they will be operating in 2026 with a slight surplus of about $371,000 in the fund, with revenues posted against expenses. Wastewater treatment operations. Wages are similar to Public Works. Overtime continues. It's a planned expense, and overall, it's stabilized. This is something it's shown on the it's not shown there. So it's not on the chart, but it's shown in the budget as something that during the WIP project really went up. And now that we're sort of through that project and have figured out how to operate the plant at the best way possible, those operational overtime costs have stabilized. Safety, supplies, and general expenses are trending slightly up, but that's because we as a township have been spending a little extra attention on safety. We have a very active safety committee that Megan chairs, and we've continued to make really good improvements, especially in wastewater, where we do have a lot of dangerous confined spaces and things like that. part of our operations. You'll see a huge increase in our public utilities. This is across all of our budgets for electric. If you were here at our last meeting, you know we had to revise we had a 5-year contract that sort of held our prices in place that expired, and we had a 73% increase in our costs for electricity, which I know everyone at home is feeling those cost increases as well. But for us at the wastewater treatment plant, we use a lot of electricity, so it has a significant impact for us there. We've reduced repairs and maintenance costs as many items were moved that would prior have been considered maintenance. We have moved to capital, and transfers to the general fund have been updated to rebalance the appropriate salaries. Okay, that is my quick overview of our operations. Does anyone on the board have any questions about the operations stuff that I went over? Okay, moving on to capital. As I mentioned earlier, we have a 5-year capital plan, which we review that each summer as part of our budget process with our staff. That capital plan has grown to $64 million across 7 departments, including administration, facilities, police, public works, our fire department, parks and recreation, and wastewater. Funds are sourced from 10 different funding sources. And if you've been to many of our meetings, you know we're constantly searching grant funding for these projects. And so when we plan for the capital fund, we plan the expenditures. We don't plan on any revenue coming in for grants. So if we do get grants as we go through the process, as we go through the 5-year plan, that increases the money we have in the fund, but we don't hope and plan for grants like we're going to get them. We only count money we have in hand. All right, so Megan, do you have to do some clicking around to get to the capital fund? Thank you, ma'am. All right, so as you can see on the screen, which, can you zoom in just maybe one and see? Oh, okay, there we go, perfect. So this top section of the capital plan shows the capital reserve fund and the highway aid fund, which we sort of combine those together because the only thing we use our state liquid fuels funding on are capital improvements to our streets. So they are lumped together. And you can see that for 2025 and 2026, and that's about it, we are solvent with our capital plan. After that, we start to go into the red. That is not something that I'm particularly worried about because we have a very strong debt service position. So we have only 2 major loans at the township, one of which is expiring in 2027, which is just when we start to need additional funding for our capital plan. So we expect that for future expenditures, we will be able to borrow to cover those expenditures. And I always like to talk about borrowing because I think as residents, when we think about our home budgets, we think, well, you don't want to acquire debt, but it's a little different with a municipal budget. When we're planning a project and making a 30-year investment into the community, we don't want the taxpayers of today to pay for that 30-year investment for the community. We want to spread that cost over 30 years so that the taxpayers of today and the taxpayers of tomorrow are helping to fund that cost. So there's a purpose to borrowing in municipalities that isn't just to get us out of a hole financially. It's to actually assign a fair taxation and a fair value on capital projects through the time. Of course, we don't take a 30-year loan. It's usually a 15 to 20-year loan, but it still spreads that expenditure. Going down, we have a sewer capital fund. Again, sewer is separate from our municipal operations because rates fund the sewer fund. And that fund is doing really well and doesn't experience any solvency issues until 2029. I don't get too worried about that because between now and 2029, probably a lot will change with our plan. I should have said it at the beginning, but a budget is a loose plan for the future. So while we have projects planned over each of these different years, sometimes things happen that change it. For example, we might be going after a grant and we want to wait another year to see if we get the grant before we buy a piece of equipment. We can just slide it into the next year as long as the aging piece of equipment is still operable. And then finally, our fire protection fund. Excuse me. This is our fund that funds only fire operations. So again, totally fine in 2025. In 2026, based on the operating expenses and planned capital expenditures, we start to not have enough funding to fund the capital fund. And that situation just gets worse as we move forward. That's why the board has authorized a regional effort for fire services. So we have joined forces with Lower Gwynedd Township, Ambler Borough, and North Wales Borough to investigate all of the fire departments that serve those towns to see if there's some overlap in operations and way that we could work together to reduce duplication of apparatus, duplication of staff, and duplication of facilities. That study isn't complete. We expect it to be completed early next year. But as that's happening, we still have aging fire equipment and operations of a fire department, Upper Gwynedd Fire Department, that we need to plan for and be ready for. Okay, those are the overall numbers on the capital plan. Now let's get into the projects, Megan. So scroll down, please. Probably our least exciting projects at my own admission would be the ones we have to do here for administration. So things like server upgrades, which we're planning for next year, and administration building redesign, which we did a few years ago to make it safer. We have some plans to redesign this room for that same purpose, provide for an IT room so that we can separate our IT person out of the room where he's trying to run Zooms and things like that, as well as numerous repairs to our HVAC units and other things that keep this building moving. Thanks, Megan. Into the Township Police Department, the police have a pretty straightforward capital budget where Chief Duffy asked for 2 vehicles one year, 1 vehicle the next year to move through our fleet and replace things in an appropriate timeline. Additionally, there are always in-camera cars and PCs and technology that need to be replaced. So for this year, next year, we just have a plan for 1 vehicle and some PC replacements. Moving into fire services. So when we talk about fire funds for capital, this includes two departments, both the Upper Gwynedd Fire Department as well as the Upper Gwynedd Township Fire Marshal's Office. So some of the items you see here are emergency related items and others are capital items for the fire department. So an item that we've been planning over the past few years but have been difficult to source are drop-down floodgates. You've probably heard me talk about them. And we have them planned for areas in the township that flood every single year that cause some inefficient operations. So when we have a big rain event, we have to send out Public Works to put up barriers in probably about 6 different locations. These floodgates would just drop down where Public Works would be able to drop down the floodgates and we wouldn't have to worry about people driving through floodwater around barriers. The gates would drop and they wouldn't be able to get around them, which is an important safety improvement. We're also planning a new vehicle for our deputy fire marshal, some Knox box replacements, and then we get to the fire department operations. So Upper Gwynedd Fire Department, hopefully all of you realize that we have an all-volunteer fire department. They operate in the village on Garfield. Why am I flaking? Yeah, Garfield. And the building is quite outdated and small for the needs of a modern fire department. So it has been on our capital plan and continues to be on our capital plan to replace that building. If we endeavor on a regional effort as a result of the DCED study, that will obviously change. But for right now, the reality of the situation is we need to start planning for the future for whichever fire needs we're going to have. Those include upgrading our engine 80, which is the main piece of apparatus utilized by the fire department. I'm looking at the chief to give me a nod. Yeah, okay. And that is a 2008 vehicle. These days, replacing a fire truck costs between $1 and $2 million, depending on the piece of apparatus, which is outrageously expensive. Do you think I know it's crazy. I can see this shock and awe in the audience. So one thing that we're looking at for next year is rather than replacing the engine, looking at a potential refurbishment. That's something that the fire department's working on with their committee and will do in conjunction with the township because we actually own the vehicles. The fire department, it's an interesting relationship that we have that allows us to work very closely with our fire department and make sure that the expenditures that they're making are in line with what the township has in mind. In some cases, fire departments are very independent. They own all their own apparatus. They own all their own buildings. In our case, we're a little more intermingled, and I think that helps the fire department succeed and helps the township feel that we have a good oversight of their financial operations. Thanks, Megan. Moving on to Public Works, we have this year, if you're someone that loves to read our budget documents, which I hope you all are, you will, thank you, Fred. I'm glad there's someone watching. Yeah. Okay, well, it'll be posted on our website, don't worry. So we have now structured our capital look to show three things: vehicles, equipment, and projects. So here you see all of our Public Works vehicles. So obviously some of them are not planned for replacement in the 5-year period, but now you can have a good understanding of our entire Public Works fleet and when things need to be replaced. So for next year, we just have one truck that we're planning to replace. It's a 10-ton dump truck. And please take note of the year of the vehicle that we're replacing. It is a 2000. We're in 2026, so it's a 26-year-old truck that we use for salting and plowing operations. So we have an awesome mechanic that works for us. And our Public Works team takes really good care of their equipment. Moving on, you can see all of the equipment that we use in the Public Works Department. Here again, you can see quite a lot of longevity in our equipment. For next year, we have some planned replacements of plow, actually just like the plow or the backhoe portion of the vehicle, as well as a new thumbnail attachment for our backhoe. And then we get into the exciting projects that will make a difference in your community. So as you can see, there's in 2025 a lot of projects that we have completed, and looking forward to 2026, the West Prospect project that Nick spoke about earlier will be concluding this year, but we weren't exactly sure how that timing was going to roll out. So we left room and space for that to maybe be completed in 2026. We also have $941,000 and change allocated to road paving, and we'll go through those roads in just a moment. We have the $4 million Sumneytown Pike Bridge replacement project, as well as the Sumneytown Pike pedestrian bridge relocation project, which we have spoken about quite a lot. We have line striping throughout the township, backup generators for our Public Works garages, flashing stop signs to aid pedestrian safety in a couple different areas in the township. And at the end of the list here, there are a few stormwater related improvements. Not sure if everyone's aware, we have a program where if residents are concerned about stormwater on their property, they can call the township. Nick and Dave, our zoning officer, and our Public Works director make a visit to the property and make recommendations for solutions that either the township can do if they're on the public area, or that the homeowner can do if they're private solutions that need to be done on the property. So these three projects, Sullivan Drive, Clearbrook, and Lower Valley Road, all include public improvements that we need to make, things like inserting inlets or maybe changing grates, things like that, to make water flow better in those neighborhoods. Oh, I was going to try to move it, but keep going, Megan, thanks. So here is the street paving section. Originally, we had planned in our road program to repair Beaver, Township Line, and Sweetsford. As you know, we have a little bit of an issue with the microsurfacing that occurred over the past few years in one of our township neighborhoods. So we have planned in this budget to endeavor to repair the roadways, Flintlock, General Nash, Patriot, Powderhorn, and Supplee, which are the most traveled roads in those areas. And they will be milled and repaired so that there will no longer be big divots where the manholes are, or big divots at the edge of the roadway where the inlets are. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can reference my presentation about that a few months ago, but we are glad to be able to be making some of those repairs. Next up, in the Park and Rec Department, similar to the Public Works Department, now you can easily see what vehicles the Park and Rec Department has, as well as what equipment. And it looks like in 2026, we have no vehicle replacements planned. And as we scroll down for equipment, we have a couple. We really do go through mowers. We have to replace them quite frequently, but we also have a lot of space that we mow. And moving on to projects in the community from Park and Rec Department, we are completing a pole barn on our property to allow for storage of all those big lists of equipment that we've just went through. We have the acquisition of West Point Pike, 1908 West Point Pike, as well as some planning and future repair needs. We have sidewalk repairs that we'll be making on township-owned sidewalks and some trail-related projects. We have engineering planned for between Dickerson and Norgwin and for the Stony Creek area where we have a couple grants helping fund those plans. Before you scroll, Megan, I want to touch for a moment for the board's edification on the tennis and pickleball court paving. At the time of the budget, we made an estimate of $200,000, which was based on prior projects that we have done, such as the basketball courts that we resurfaced this year. Unfortunately, that estimate, we got the actual estimate from one of the vendors that we used for that project, and it is now coming in at $498,000 instead of the $200,000 that we had planned for. So because the budget is not final yet, and we have a moment that I can check in with the board and understand what you'd like us to do with this, I did want to take a moment and ask for some board input. We looked at maybe splitting the project up over 2 years, but that actually increases the cost. We have to remobilize. It's more than just paving the courts. There's replacement of fence, replacement of windscreen, a lot of things like that that would have to be taken down twice if we spread it into a 2-year project. So we believe as staff that the project would be best to be done all at once instead of split over 2 years. And that number would have to go from $200,000 to $498,000. So I'm going to pause talking and see if I can get some input from the board members on that project.
Just to kill the dead air, that's a big increase that I think, for myself anyways, I wasn't anticipating, from $200,000 to almost $500,000 for repaving and fencing. Seemingly it wouldn't be that much, but when you get the detailed budget for that, the actual numbers, it gets ring up pretty quick.
I also want to point out that it does create an additional pickleball court. So it's not just repaving, it also is, it's the same, it creates an additional court through striping and paving, not through actual area taken up, but there will be additional facilities for our residents if we move forward with the project.
You just talk about the use of the courts currently, and are they always full? Do we have
Yes.
waiting periods, things like that?
So I can't speak as much to the tennis courts, although I do see the tennis courts being used quite a bit, but the pickleball courts are very heavily utilized pretty much all the time in all weather. We do have lit courts. There's no one out there right now, I don't think, but they're very frequently utilized. And we have a very active meetup group that utilizes the courts, as well as just residents that come to play. I'd say it's very strong utilization, similar to the basketball court. So there's a question from the audience about what time the pickleball courts are allowed to be used to, and I'm sorry, I don't know that answer off the top of my head, but I can get one for you. Thwack, thwack, thwack. Yeah, that's the sound. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes, that is expensive. But everything's expensive right now. Our big, huge Sumneytown Pike Bridge project, which we've been working on for the last 5 years, that we were super excited to be able to get grant funding for almost completely, including moving the pedestrian bridge down the road, all of it, is now $2 million more. The cost of everything has risen. I like the idea of possibly spreading it out, except for the fact that I don't like the idea of spending an extra $100,000 then, because we're going to spread it out. I don't see inflation coming down. I only see inflation increasing. If we were to put it off a year or 2 years, I only see that price increasing. The pickleball courts are very much utilized in our township, and the tennis courts. I think the repaving of the basketball courts was a fantastic decision. I constantly get compliments from people about it. If you look at them, they are just fantastic. They visually add so much, plus the space that they brought, the additional court that we added really made a huge difference. And I just think the same thing about the pickleball and the tennis courts. When I was knocking this year, this fall, before the election, I ran into a resident who asked me when we were planning on paving the tennis courts and the pickleball courts. And he said, it's been quite a while. Like, you should go take a look at those tennis courts and see. They are really overdue. And as if the magic fairies heard, Sarah brought it up at the budget meeting that, oh yes, this is something that we really need to do. That's very important. It's very utilized. So for that reason, my opinion would be to vote affirmatively towards the increase for this in the budget to be advertised at the higher cost.
Since these new numbers came in, what was Sarah's thoughts on it?
Sarah's thoughts are like the project. I also want to point out that I'm pretty sure that this project was identified as a high priority item in the CPRO's plan as well. But yeah, Sarah wants to do the project. She feels we need to do the project. Could we wait another year to do the project? Sure. Could we wait 5 years? No. Then we would probably have some unsafe conditions if we waited 5 years. So this is really a board decision.
What's the impact on our budget when we do that? Like the whole
So
picture?
the bottom line, so Megan, if you can go back to the first page of the capital plan. You can see the bottom line for 2026. After all of the planned expenditures that are already included, we will have a balance in our capital plan of $3.467 million. So you can afford the additional $200,000 increase, but that will just make the 2027 number higher, if we plan all of the projects that we plan to do in 2027 as well. Now, that does not include any additional revenue we could get in the form of grants, et cetera, for some of those planned 2027 projects, not the tennis and pickleball courts, but other potential projects.
I think we should add it to the budget for the reasons Denise mentioned. I think it's important to the residents. It was absolutely talked about as a huge priority in our CPROS Parks and Rec plan, and people do bring it up constantly, and I didn't realize how bad of shape the courts were in, and so I agree the prices are not coming down, unfortunately.
I think, Liz, we need your opinion.
I think with Sarah's knowledge and the amount of work and everything that she puts in, if this is something she really feels is important that we do, like Denise said, they're popular, and I would be for it to include the increase.
I would just caution that going forward, we have a large number of capital projects that are going to be extraordinarily expensive, and every few $100,000s is going to be very important going forward. I know that we're able to bond out for a lot of those capital projects going forward. I would be, Sarah's very, behind this project. I'm inclined to vote in favor of it with the idea that going forward, we're not able, there's always going to be more projects. Costs are always going to go up. There's always things that we're going to need, but we're not going to be able to do all of them. So I think going forward, we're going to have to, take a little more scrutinizing eye as our budget and our capital projects, as you can see from the budget, get increasingly large.
Okay, thanks for that clue. If you've never attended one of our budget work sessions, that's how it goes. I know some of you have attended some of our budget work sessions, and I appreciate the input for the board. So what that will translate to is the next time when we publicly post this agenda tomorrow or the next day for advertisement, this project will be included based on what the board just decided. Okay, moving back to the discussion of capital, I think we were at Park and Rec capital, and we can now move to wastewater capital. Oh, that's fine. I don't think there's any planned equipment purchases. Okay, so looking at wastewater for 2026, planned capital improvements. Just one moment, sorry. Every year for the past few years, we've invested heavily in our I&I reduction, and the first two items on the capital plan show that investment continuing throughout the next 5 years. I&I is inflow and infiltration, and basically it's groundwater that gets into the sewer system that we then have to pay to treat. We have to pay those electric bills, the chemical bills to treat basically clean water. So we're constantly working to keep that out of our sewer system, and that's what those costs include. We do projects every year, manhole spray lining, and also next year we have the South Broad Street culvert. That is, I wish Dan Wallace was here because he always asks about that culvert, that bridge, and the yellow or orange fences that are sort of out there by that bridge. The county does have it planned for replacement next year. As part of that planned replacement, we have to move our utility, our wastewater pipe off the bridge and pay for that realignment as the utility. So that's why you see that $134,000 expenditure there. We're looking to work on continuing to update our building interior lighting at the wastewater treatment plant. We're converting everything to LED. The wastewater treatment plant has a high need for spare parts. A lot of the items and things that we use in wastewater are specifically manufactured for our wastewater department. And so we like to keep the spares on hand because when something breaks, you need to be able to immediately replace it. We also have some planned upgrades to our security cameras at the site, as well as valve replacements and some cleaning of pump stations and a new software program that will help us map and identify all of our service areas, and will also sort of help us as we move forward with a planned rate study to make sure that we're capturing rates from everyone that is discharging sewage into our system. Thanks, Megan. I think that might be the end of the capital plan, and we'll skip back to the presentation. Oops. We're almost done, I promise. I know I can see the time bearing down upon me. So the general fund capital reserve fund is now identified as its own fund separate from other operations. Due to the new fund balance policy, general fund budget surpluses will help fuel the capital fund. There's increased transparency on our major projects, as well as a clear long-term financial picture. Future funding years don't take into account any potential surpluses. This basically shows you graphically what you just saw on a spreadsheet in the previous slide. Okay, what you've all been waiting for. The fire fund proposed tax increase is coming in at 0.63 mils, which equals about $100 per average assessed property. We have some future needs in the fire department. Operationally, currently in 2025, we fund an endowment to the all-volunteer fire department of $197,500. That has been requested to increase significantly for the 2026 budget request, excuse me, coming in at $356,000 in order to pay for increased volunteer stipends, as well as increased same things that we have costs rising, our internet costs and increased energy costs, which we're all feeling. We have a stipend program and a live-in program at our Upper Gwynedd Fire Department, both which are very much so responsible for why we still have a volunteer fire department and not a paid fire department. We're able to offer the volunteer stipends to be in the station, so when a call comes during the day, there are actually people that are there, because that has changed a lot in the fire service. In the past, employers were happy to let people leave to go to fire calls. That's changed in our society, as well as just a change in how many people are willing to volunteer to get 200 and some hours of training per year, Chief Geiger? Yeah, thank you. Okay. So it's quite a commitment to become a volunteer firefighter. One of the ways that we help continue to bolster that volunteerism is the stipend program and the live-in program, where mostly young people live for free in a house that the fire department owns in exchange for hours of service that they provide to the fire department. It's very creative. It's very much a testament to the hard work that the men and women at the fire department do to come up with creative solutions to bolster our volunteer fire department continuing. Additionally, we have some capital needs, that replacement or refurbishment of engine 80, as well as a future fire station. I'm just throwing out rough estimates. We have no design plans yet for a fire station, but unfortunately, the sticker shock on all things that we have to spend money on is pretty real in knowing that a fire station could cost around $15 to $20 million. The fire tax fund, this shows you the balance in the fire tax fund, or in the fire fund, which over the past few years has been very solvent. In 2020, we bought a couple new, what year did we buy those 2 new trucks? 2021. Okay, I was close. So that's not on the slide, but even after buying a few new trucks, which I'm glad we pulled the trigger on a few years ago and we don't have to buy now, we had a pretty healthy reserve fund balance of around 500 and change, and that continued up through even 2025. We're just shy of 500K. If we were to fund the full endowment that the fire department's looking for, we would have a deficit of $36,000 in the fund. And with the proposed tax increase, we will now have a surplus of $867,000 in the fund. And the question may be, well, Sandra, why do you want to have such a huge surplus in the fund? And my answer is fire trucks cost $1 to $2 million, and a fire station is going to cost $15 million. So if we have to endeavor down that path, we need to be able to pay for it. And unfortunately, even the planning of any of those projects costs quite a bit these days. Taxation in Upper Gwynedd, we last raised taxes in 2017. In 2025, we did a small reallocation of the millage to create the debt service fund. And in 2026, we're proposing the increase that we spoke about today. Some notable changes to the budget document. Fred, I know you're the one waiting with bated breath to review the budget document. One thing I'm going to call your attention to is some awesome additional appendices that Brian created that give you a real insight into how taxation happens in Upper Gwynedd Township. And one of the best things it shows is what this graphic is here, which shows you how much we're spending per fund. But also there's a graph that shows the average, there it is right on my next slide, the average per neighborhood breakdown. This is something special we're doing in Upper Gwynedd. We're not just telling you what the average assessed property owner will feel with this tax increase, which that's noted. The average assessed value in Upper Gwynedd Township is $158,000 and some change. So your value of your home is not what goes towards your assessed value that you pay in taxes. So your home might be worth $500K, but the assessed value is frozen from 1999. Is that right? Not the 90s. Okay, thanks. So we did a sample of other neighborhoods in the township, just in case you don't want to just go on the average residential assessment. You can see the average tax bill changes depending on which neighborhood you're looking at. So we did a pretty good sampling of those different neighborhoods and what taxation looks like in the township. The history of taxation in Upper Gwynedd, you've got to love the dollar bill and what it represents, and that is that the average Upper Gwynedd taxpayer is paying us about 6.5% of their entire tax bill. A huge chunk of that tax bill is paid, almost 80% to the school district, as well as, I can't read that percentage from here. Thanks, 13.9, I need better glasses, going to the county. Also on the left side of the slide, you can see the history and the trends of real estate tax millage over time. In Upper Gwynedd, we are very proud that our tax millage, especially for real estate taxes, has been very stable. But also, if you look back in time, back to 2012 even, I think volunteerism was stronger in our volunteer fire department. And this is not a slight on the good men and women that volunteer. It's more of a statement about all of us and people feeling in general, I think, a little bit less time to dedicate to those activities, especially with the increasing training demands. Okay, that concludes my budget presentation. I do have a few thank yous that I'd like to say. My first thank you is to the board who works really hard on this budget with us. They attend a ton of meetings to get a deep dive into all their liaison specialties, and we appreciate the time that you commit to our requests. I also want to thank Brian Shapiro, our finance director, whose good work has created quite a bit of additional transparency and efficiency in our budget process. So thank you, Brian, as well as a thank you to all of our department heads and to our finance department staff. Kelly is here from our finance department, probably from the first time ever that one of our finance staff, she's so mad that I just said her name, but she's an awesome employee and we're going to give you credit for being here, Kelly. So thank you to all the staff members that work so hard on the budget. Oh, you want her to come up for public comment? I don't think so. Okay, so now I'll open it up to questions from the board and any questions?
I don't have any additional questions. Like you mentioned, we've spent a lot of time going over proposed budgets, refined budgets, sharpening the pencil on a lot of different departments because as we recognize things are very expensive and we can't pay for everything all at once. We have to make some strategic decisions. So I think all of my questions anyways have been satisfied at this point.
Sandra, thank you for all this. You, it was different. It's been different this year in a good way. And I did not notice anybody falling asleep out there. So that's a good sign. Did he nod off? I can't see you, but thank you for putting this all together, for answering all of our questions that we've had, for working so tirelessly with everybody. It's just been, this year's been good. And the visuals and everything that you've come up with really help explain no matter what kind of a learner you are. And I just really, I think we need to thank you too for everything. So thank you.
Thanks.
I just wanted to echo what Sandra said to everyone on the staff. Thank you so much. And I would also like to do a shout out to Sandra, who is the person who's the maestro, who is leading all of that and putting all the blood, sweat, and tears in it behind the scenes that we don't see. So if I can ask everybody to give them all a big round of applause right now. I think it's very well merited. And we all benefit from it. Thank you.
And thank you to the two residents who are both here tonight that came to two separate meetings. So that was great to have some participation.
I have to get back to the regular agenda. So for everyone in the room that's so fascinated by that budget presentation, up on our website, within the next couple days, you'll be able to dig deep into the 100+ pages of the budget that you can review at your leisure. All right, we have 15 minutes, I heard, until the game starts. So, wait, did it already start, Brian? Okay, well, oh, gosh, okay. Well, I'm so sorry about that. So we will put the holiday and meeting schedule on the consent agenda. That's item 16. And Commissioner Vice President Moody, I'd like to pass it back to you for a few decision items that are time sensitive. You will see that there are more decision items on this agenda than typically there are, but we did have some additional time sensitive items that we needed to get done.
Thank you. So just reading, what are we on? Number 17. So number 17 here, in accordance with Pennsylvania's first class township tax code, finance and taxation, we must fix the property tax for the next fiscal year in conjunction with setting our annual budget. So to that end, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the advertisement of ordinance 2025-07, fixing the 2026 tax rate. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any board comments? Any public comments? Motion, all in favor. Does this take a? No. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Okay, and number 18. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the advertisement of ordinance 2025-08 for the 2026 budget appropriations. Is there a second?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any board comments? Any public comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Great, thank you. So additionally, next week, the board will consider the homestead exemption. There are no proposed changes to that. That's the exemption you can take on your real estate tax bill for your primary home. We also need a resolution to approve and authorize the auditors conducting an audit. This would be an audit for 2025, which I'm so excited to have on the agenda so early. And I'll pass it back to you, Commissioner Moody.
Thank you. So for item number 21, back in June, we authorized an offer to purchase 1908 West Point Pike. That agreement contained a due diligence period. And at this point, we are looking to request an extension that is necessary as we're awaiting the completion of the court process. So I'd like to make a motion to ratify the addendum number 3 to the acquisition agreement for 1908 West Point Pike, to authorize the township manager to take all necessary steps to complete the acquisition. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Are there any board comments? Any public comments?
I have a comment that I sincerely hope this is our last extension. And we're really just waiting on a signature at this point. So there may be another extension that comes our way, but it won't be because something's wrong. It's just we're waiting on a court proceeding.
Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, my question is, in light of the discussion tonight on the budget and Greg's point about the fact that things are escalating quickly, are you reconsidering this? Your acquisition costs are $900,000. We're talking about paving pickleball courts to the tune of $400,000, $500,000. You guys don't know what you're in for, obviously, for expenditures. It's like buying a pig in a poke. This thing could cost a lot of money. So you're going to be raising taxes and spending more money is what it looks like. The way you're going with this and all these other capital considerations. So the question, I guess, is, are you reconsidering this acquisition?
So I can't answer for the board on that, but I can answer that we do know what we're getting into. You'll see when we publish the budget, and you might have seen on the screen that we've planned the expenditures that'll be necessary for the purchase of the property, as well as the changes that we might have to make to the property to be able to use it for municipal use.
How can you say you know what you're getting into when you just proposed $300,000 more in expenditures on an item you thought you knew what you were getting into?
Well, that's a good
You don't
play
really
on
know what
words,
you're getting
Carl.
into.
We did an initial, when we're planning for the budget, we do an initial expectation of what the cost will be. And it's up to the vendors to provide us a detailed cost estimate. That's why these escalators are occurring, because things are costing more than they ever had before.
I'm very aware of it. I
Yeah.
live it every day, personally and professionally.
Every business does.
Well, some people manage it, and we're not managing it.
We do.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything about it besides the fire, which is important, and we talked about a tax increase for this year, or for 2026. Just the fire, and that's been explained. So I don't agree with you, Carl, on that one. We do know what we're doing, and I think it's not just this board, it's the whole Upper Gwynedd staff. They know what they're doing. When something like this comes in with the numbers from a vendor, we can't control that. As you know, in the business that you're in, you predict, you get, and then they come in with something else. So maybe if we would have had that $482K number prior to what we found out afterwards, if we had that number, we wouldn't have had tonight's discussion. But this township knows what they're doing. We haven't raised taxes since, I don't know when, 17. And I take that personally. And I think that our staff and our department heads and Sandra, as we all said, work really hard to provide services and things for the residents of this township. And whether you use the pickleball courts or not, there are people that do. And maybe there are things that you use that others don't use. And we really try to focus on giving services to everybody, not just, people that might not, agree with what we're doing, but the staff works really, really hard to make this budget work and to make this community safe and a good place to live. So I take offense to you saying we don't know what we're doing.
Carl, can I remind you that no one can hear you if you're speaking from your seat? If you'd like to, well, if from your seat or at the podium, it's still happening.
It doesn't matter if are offended, Liz. It's a matter of being accountable. And
How are
in
we
my
not
world,
being accountable?
listen, if I come in with hundreds of thousands of dollars of overrun, I got some answering to do. Period. I'm in a business where I service the public. And if I come in and I do things that are unexpected, it's very uncomfortable, if not costly. But in the public sector, you don't have that accountability and you need it. That's the point I'm making.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Fred, did you also have a comment? I know you raised your hand earlier. Okay.
No problem. You also have to come to the podium.
Do you have an expected closing date on this real estate purchase?
As soon as possible. Everything is ready. We're literally, Lauren, you want to handle what, because I don't explain the court proceedings.
I think one of the problems I had with this acquisition was the fact that it's going to be well over $1 million plus where the details are in this budget that we haven't seen yet. So the point that we're, kind of watching every penny, I don't think anyone in this room doesn't work hard because I've sat in those meetings and I've seen some of the interaction, but I still don't quite understand the purchase of this property. I know everyone wants a rec center, but is it really worth the cost considering all the other things we have going on? That would be my only concern. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have all the comments. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to your section, Vice President Moody. Next week, obviously, we all know we're going to have the conditional use application for Pembroke Parkway, as well as a potential preliminary final land development approval, as well as a couple MARC waiver requests, which can go on the consent agenda, and an stormwater best management practices operation maintenance agreement, which can also go on the consent agenda. There is nothing in Commissioner Hull's section. Moving on to Commissioner Mull's section, we have a lot of payments that we'll be making. There will be an approval of a change order for the Haynes Run Stream Bank Restoration Project. This was for additional trees and plantings in the amount of $10,000, as well as a payment to Land Tech Enterprises in the amount of $67,000 and some change. And Nick, do we expect that project is going to come in over budget?
No, that $10,000 that we are adding on for the additional tree planting that went out there was extra wiggle room we had in the contract. So just to add some, we had to take down, I think it was 35 trees. A lot of them were dead or dying or falling into the stream. But just to beef up the landscape out there, we decided to use that wiggle room to try to plant. I forget the exact number of trees that went out there, but it was at least a few dozen trees. So we thought it was, beneficial just to increase the amount of trees that we were able to add back to the watershed there.
I just wanted to point out that the project's going to be coming in under budget, even with the additional trees, or at budget.
Correct. I think it's at budget.
I think it's at
with the
budget.
additional trees. Yeah.
Additionally, we have the West Prospect Avenue Drainage Project with an additional sidewalk amount of $1,500 and some change, as well as a payment to KBC Construction for that work. We have approval of the street sweeping bid for next year. We were excited that not every cost has gone up extraordinarily, because apparently we can still get a good deal on street sweeping, thank goodness. And we also have the approval of snow guards and high visibility back plates for traffic signals. This is part of our 2025 capital plan to increase the safety at some of our traffic signals, as well as a replacement of the mast arm and traffic light pole at Town Pike and Parkside by Armor Electric. Fred, this is one you like to talk to me about, so I hope you noticed it on the agenda. This is that area where that truck hit the pole and then the light kept malfunctioning. We talked about, I thought we spoke about that. Maybe I'm assigning someone else's complaints to your name. Yeah, I don't know. But there have been a lot of issues with the mast arm at Town Pike, so we're excited to replace it and make sure that light is operational. Town and Parkside. Yeah. Okay, back to you, Vice President Moody. For the discussion on the rebid of the snow plow and equipment bid, we did put it out to bid and got no bidders. So we're going to try again one more time and see if we can get some takers.
Thank you. So I'd
Real
like to make
quick,
a motion
sorry,
to
Rebecca.
authorize, oh, go ahead, Nick.
So I just wanted to add in, I didn't get a chance for the change order for the sidewalk, that extra $1,500. Just wanted to add in that next month when this project is well under budget. So there's going to be a big negative change order that comes in there too. So
Love that.
just wanted to
update.
add that in.
Thanks, Nick, for providing
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to number 34, I'd like to make a motion to request authorization to re-advertise and solicit bids for snowplow and equipment rental. Do I have a second?
So
Go ahead. Go ahead, Denise. Was that you?
I'll move it then. Yeah, thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Are there any board comments? Any public comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up, we have another time-sensitive purchase for the Public Works Department for a snowplow from Cargo Trailer Sales, Inc. in the amount of $10,981. And in case anyone thinks that we're getting like a whole truck or something, we're not. That's literally just for the plow attachment on the front of a vehicle.
Thank you. So then I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of a snowplow for the Public Works Department from Cargo Trailer Sales Incorporated in the amount of $10,981. Can I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Are there any board comments? Any public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
The next two items on the agenda, I know Commissioner Moody will go over it, but I wanted to point out they're the final payments for the Merck pump station that we've been working on all year, and just remind everyone that those are pass-through payments. Merck pays for the operation of that pump station. We just operate it as the utility.
Thank you for that reminder. So for the first, I think I'm on the first one.
36.
I'd like to make a motion to approve payment number 2, the final payment to Blooming Glen Contractors for the Merck Pump Station in the amount of $54,382.50. Can I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any board comments? Any public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And then for number 37, I'd like to make a motion to approve payment number 5, the final payment to BSI Electrical Contractors for the Merck Pumping Station in the amount of $38,289.10. Can I have a second?
Second?
A motion and a second. Are there any board comments? Any public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Great. Item 38 is a proposal to buy some flat gate valves in the amount of $3,000. Item 39 is for the purchase and installation of flow meters. And item 40 is a GIS proposal from Barton and LaJudas. All three of these proposed expenditures are part of the 2025 budget and planned for.
Thank you. And I think before we adjourn, Commissioner Hall had something she wanted to mention.
Yes, I just wanted to share, if you hadn't already heard, well, I'm sure everyone's heard that we have 65,000 residents in Montgomery County will no longer get SNAP benefits. And as a result, a lot of different restaurants and businesses are doing food drives to try to supplement some of that loss. And so the township is doing that as well. We have a food drive going on for the entire month of November, and we will quite possibly extend it. But we are collecting non-perishable or perishable items in the front, right in the main entrance. There's boxes there. Even if it's perishable, bring it. And we will get it refrigerated and then get it to the right place. If you go onto Manna's website, and because you don't want to actually go buy it and have to schlep it over here, you can do it all electronically. You can order via Amazon. You can order items that they might need, like toiletries, supplies like that, and have it delivered. You could water, food, all kinds of things via Amazon will go right directly to Manna. So you could do it that way. But if you are looking for a place to drop it off so you don't have to go all the way to the Manna drop-off in Lansdale Borough, please come here. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for attending. This meeting is adjourned.